Hello again. Thanks for joining me for our devotions today. We want to talk about reverential worship. And we want to go to the Old Testament, to the book of Samuel. We have the account of the ark. It's being returned by the Philistines after it was captured. And it ended up in the house of Abinadab, and it actually stayed in his house about 20 years. Now, King David has a desire to bring back the ark, which represents the presence of God, and he's giving instructions for how it should be transported. So we want to see in a little more detail, and we're going to look in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verses 3 and 4. Now, when the Philistines sent the ark away, they got a new cart, and David unwisely followed their example and got a new cart. So let's look at the journey. In verse 3 it says, Uzzah and Ahio, sons of Abinadab, were guiding the new cart with the ark of God in it, and Ahio was walking in front of it. Let's pick it up at verse 6. When they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah reached out and took hold of the ark of God because the oxen stumbled. The Lord's anger burned against Uzzah because of his irreverent act. Therefore the Lord struck him down, and he died there beside the ark of God. Then David was angry because the Lord's wrath had broken out against Uzzah, and to this day the place is called Perez Uzzah. Now when you look at the name Uzzah, it really means strength. And we said the ark has been in his home for about 20 years under the guidance of his dad. So he had gotten kind of too familiar and accustomed to the ark being around, and he lost that fear of God. Now, we note that only the priests were the ones allowed to carry the ark, and they were not even supposed to touch it. He was not a priest, so his good intention to steady the ark, which seemed to be falling when the oxen stumbled, really indicated that he took a position he was not entitled to, and it would indicate that God couldn't even take care of himself. So I want us to learn from Uzzah's mistake, not be casual about our walk, our communion, our worship to God. Now, some of us have been worshiping God for many, many years, or even leading worship. But let's not take a casual approach to our worship and lose our reverential fear of God. Now let's look in verse 9. It says, David was afraid of the Lord that day and said, how can the ark of God ever come to me? And that should be our heart as we prepare to worship. How can I reverence him and bring his presence in my worship? So David wisely, based on what happened, not to take the ark back to the city until he discovered God's methodology, God's protocol to bring his presence. Now God had already instituted the correct order to bring his presence. That's in 1 Chronicles chapter 15, verse 12 to 15. David is talking to the priests, and he said to them, you are the heads of the Levitical families. You and your fellow Levites are to consecrate yourselves and bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel, to the place I have prepared for it. It was because you, the Levites, did not bring it up the first time that the Lord our God broke out in anger against us. We did not inquire of him about how to do it in the prescribed way. So the priests and the Levites, they consecrated themselves in order to bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel. And the Levites carried the ark of God with the poles on their shoulders, as Moses had commanded, in accordance with the word of the Lord. So our praise and worship must be conducted in awe and reverence for him, not just casual, any old thing will do. And as you and I follow his principles for worshiping, we will experience the manifest presence of God more and more.